I was born in the Harvey hospital, 14th of the 1st, 1979, and as you could probably see, I was born a bit different. I was born, the technical term is craniofacial deficiency. Yeah, so I was born a bit different, but just with a one ear, one eye. And I've had quite a lot of surgeries over the years. 1989, they took a rib out to lose it as a bone to bring my face out. That was a big op. I was in intensive care for a week or so afterwards. People would stare, and I look back now and I think they didn't mean anything by it. It was more they were a bit intrigued, but that was a bit unnerving. But Mum would always say they're only staring because how beautiful looking you are. I don't think it's ever really gone wrong, but I remember there was a time I went to a party and someone said I was the ugliest person he'd ever seen. We all face adversity. I think everyone's got something, and they may not see it from the outside, but as I've gotten older, I found out I think everyone's gone through something. I got one of the tour people here, and I think he's dead. And Joey came down, and oh no, he's got a glass eye. You know, 'cause I wasn't even moving. I was standing on deck thinking, should I jump overboard? I really want to take my life, but I was feeling pretty low. So I had more surgery, but I've come to sort of love the life I'm living, and I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm 44 now, so yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing a lot more of it today.
So today I'm here with my good friend Joel Whitwell, who I've known for years. He's come all the way from Harvey, Australia, a town, if you can call it that. There's only 3,000 people. He has done a TED Talk since I last met him. He's had his book published, TED Talk and book, One Eye, One Ear, No Worries.
No worries.
Congratulations on all of these achievements, Joel. And for the viewers who are not familiar, we're just going to start out right away. When you were born, Joel, what happened?
I was born in the Harvey hospital, 14th of the 1st, 1979. And as you could probably see, I was born a bit different. I was born, the technical term is craniofacial deficiency. It was meant the side of my face wasn't formed properly. But I'd like to take a moment here to say how good, to give respect to Mum, because as soon as she could, she had me down the main street of Harvey, sold me off to the locals, and just having that, Mum and Dad, just having that start in life, and as you're about to hear over the next hour or so, is that's really influenced what I've gone on to do with my life. So just having the parents who are that supportive, I'm almost getting a bit teary already, but just having that was a good start. So yeah, so I was born a bit different, but just with a one ear, one eye. And I've had quite a lot of surgeries over the years, as you'll probably hear about soon. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
Joel, you mentioned a medical term then, and probably a lot of people don't understand what that means. What does that mean?
Craniofacial deficiency is the technical term for it, that it just wasn't formed properly, the right side of my face. And Mum went to have tests and that, and there was no reason or cause for it. But again, like I said, Mum was, I'm going to love this boy. And yeah, so that's just the technical term for it. So yeah, just one side of my face wasn't formed properly.
And how many people in the world have that condition?
That's a good, I have to do a bit of research, but other people have. I don't know how common it is. When I was a kid, I did meet someone through the hospital that had the one ear and one eye as well, so it may be pretty common.
Do they know about this condition before birth?
It was 1979, so I don't know how big it was back then, but this day and age, and I've been thinking about, so I have more surgery, but I've come to sort of love the life I'm living, and I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm 44 now, so yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing a lot more of it today.
Joel, did you have brothers and sisters when you were born, or did they come later?
No, Kelvin, my older brother, I'm that close to both my brothers. Kelvin's 2 years older than me, and he was like my protector growing up in school. And as you'll hear soon as well, looking back, he probably didn't need it because I never got bullied. I think small town, I was actually one of the popular kids in school, and that I'm a bit teary again because that gave me a good start. And as I've grown older and look back, bullying's a big thing, and it could have impacted my life if I had it, but I was all through school pretty popular. And so Kelvin, he's always been the protective older brother. And then Andrew Frog, 5 years younger, and they're close to my brothers. I think that's a big reason why my life has turned out the way it has, the family support. And they're going to obviously watch this podcast back home in Australia and be pretty proud.
I mean, at what age did you start to realise that you were, perhaps a little different to the other kids?
When I was like in kindergarten and that, and there's a funny story. It's in the book. I remember marbles. I used to use my glass eye as a marble.
Oh, marble.
Yeah,
Marvel.
Marble, yeah. I used to use my glass eye, and I look back now and I'm sort of glad no one won it off me. But so
you used your glass eye as a marble.
Yeah, so I was just a typical kid. Yeah, I just thought it was normal, and so that would have been in the early years of primary school, year 3, 4. And I think a challenge that I did find hard was, even though I was very well known and liked in Harvey, whenever Mum took me out of my comfort zone and to go to Perth for check-up, people would stare. And I look back now and I think they didn't mean anything by it. It was more they were a bit intrigued, but that was a bit unnerving. But Mum would always say, they're only staring because how beautiful looking you are. And I believe that. I think you hear that enough as a kid, that stays with you.
Now, I'm really inquisitive about this glass eye, right? So I bet that drove your parents insane, the fact that you could remove it.
I lost a lot of eyes.
A lot of eyes, yeah.
They're in the water, in the ocean. So Mum, God bless her, she's a trooper. There's the amount of times she took me up to Perth to get a new ear. As a kid, we all lose things as kids, but I lost a lot of one time we were sitting up at Low Brook Dam, which is the dam above Harvey, and there was this cliff face, and I was about 8 years old, and I sort of just framed my eye, and then I sort of popped out, and I just watched it bounce into the water where it sank. So we had family and friends up there all arvo diving to the bottom trying to find it, but no luck. So it's probably still there today.
How old were you when you had your first glass eye?
I think I would have been pretty young. I have to ask Mum this one. I would have been sort of early primary school, even earlier, I think. So yeah, very early on.
Was there a situation with your dog and the glass eye?
Oh, yeah. I was waiting for you to bring the story up to him. We had a pet Jack Russell named Fiasto. And I had my eye in my hand, and he jumped up and swallowed it. So Mum being Mum said, "Oh, that's all right." Fed it salt water. I threw it back up. Mum washed it with disinfectant, and I put it back in and went about my day.
Oh, God.
So yeah, that's a story that it's in the book again. So
Nothing a bit of salt water can't fix, hey? But sorry, I thought didn't know who was going next.
So Joel, did you want to keep going like that, or should we?
I didn't know there was protocol. Now we know. Fabulous.
You got one?
No, I was going with you now.
Okay, so Joel, you said that you got this glass eye put in at a young age. Did you have to have surgeries at a very young age as well? Did they have to reconstruct?
Yes, I got the two big ones, which I mentioned I mentioned them in my talks. 1989, they took a rib out to use it as a bone to bring my face out. So it was a big op. I was in intensive care for a week or so afterwards. And what lifted my spirits was obviously Mum was always there, being Mum, but just sort of get well cards for my school friends, but that was a real big one. And later on, when I'm more relaxed, I may show you the scar, but I got a little bit of a scar there where they took the rib. And then 10 years later, they took some muscle out of my back to make a cheek. And that was, I was in the hospital again, in intensive care. And all I wanted was to get out because my friend had his 21st and I couldn't miss that. So I was at that age. But they were the two big ones. And I've had quite a lot over the years. I had one when I was in year 12, just the bone had locked up, so sort of my jaw was locked. and I had trouble speaking, so I had to cut a bit of that out. So, yeah, again, it's been a journey.
I mean, that sounds quite intense going through all that surgery, starting from quite a young age. What were hospitals like back then?
Yeah, I'm thinking back now, I didn't mind it. I think just having mum there when I was a kid really helped, and just having the friends that will come up and visit really means a lot too. And again, in '89, I made friends with Clinton and Simon, and as I wrote in the book, we were in the same ward, we became real close, and I wonder what they're doing these days, because after we left, that was before Facebook, before we sort of went our own ways in life. But they're two friendships that started just in that stay in the hospital. Not ended, because we just went our own ways, but it'd be interesting to see those two again, and yeah, just keep a positive outlook.
And how old were you when you met these two in hospital? Which stint was this?
What was that?
The two friends that you met in hospital, which
1989. So I was 10. I remember watching the He-Man. We sat up all night watching the He-Man. And I'd like to give a good shout out to my mate Normie. He's one of my good mates from school. And it's funny because in 99, he was living up in Perth at the time. And as you know, we were 20s, in our 20s, and he came and visit. And then we were playing. I've never been much of a gamer, but we were playing footy and that on the games. And my mate ended up staying, and I just made him up a little cushion on the floor of my hospital room. And every time the nurses came in to check me that night, they must have been, these just strangers on the floor, but they didn't say anything. But my mate just stayed the night, and yeah, just having those sort of friendships really mean a lot.
So, as well as the eye, you had to glue your ear on from a very early age.
Yes, it's got a bar there now, but when I was younger, they had to glue it on. And often I'll be rushing mum, I've got to get to school, and sometimes I'll be up there. And if on those days, lucky my friends didn't say anything, but yeah, so they used to get glued on, and that's when it used to come off a lot.
What's the ear made of? Sorry.
Just a plastic, yeah. And I'm in the process to get a new one before I came on this trip. I'm getting a new one, so I've got to have a few appointments when I get back. So, but this trip, this ear's been a good companion. It's seen the world with me, and I got this one in 2015.
And so, what about your hearing? How does your hearing work?
I could hear it perfectly out that ear. Deep down, I think the channel's still there, but obviously there's not much hearing at all on that side.
And your parents were concerned that your brain might have been affected in the very beginning. Yeah. What tests were done there?
Yes, which is fair enough, Mum, because they knew they already had a big road ahead, and they just wanted, and either way, they would have loved me either way. And I remember year one, I was in the class, it's a special class, and then they quickly realised, no, we've got to put this kid back in mainstream. And I went on and graduated year 12. And yeah, it's pretty exciting that, and yeah, I've achieved quite a bit.
Well, that's what I wanted to speak to you about is, you've had amazing parents by the sounds of it. Where you grew up sounds, really friendly and welcoming. And then when did it start to go wrong for you?
I don't think it's ever really gone wrong, but I remember there was a time I went to a party and someone said I was the ugliest person he'd ever seen. And I think that really, and that was not far from Harvey, and that was something that really cut deep. But then I thought about it, and he left town not long after. Harvey's a small place, and I think he said something to the wrong person, and obviously me. So he moved on. But I thought about it. He's probably a good guy. He's probably a nice guy that was drunk. And if I let that to find a way to live my life one night, then it's just holding me back. And I forgave him in my heart not long after. And I think that was a big thing for me. Just at 19, I've had it pretty easy up till then, but this was pretty blunt. And I had a few tears that night, but it's just life. Things I either deal with them or I don't. And yeah.
So what did you do when you heard those words?
What was your reaction? I was with two mates, and I was a bit stunned, and I just got up and left, and my mates followed me, and I didn't want, because I was only 19, I didn't want them to see me cry, and so I dropped them off. They wanted to stay with me. I said, no, I'm all right, boys. And then they went up to a quiet place and did a lot of thinking and wonder why that happened that night, why it turned out the way it did. But no, I got home the next day and I think I was already on the way to, I'm going to overcome this. And again, the guy's probably not a bad bloke. It's just people do things and they do make it tougher. I've probably got a thicker skin.
Unfortunately.
Joel, just give us a bit more detail about this story, because you've gone over it quite quickly. You said you went to a quiet place. What was going through your head at this quiet place?
I had heard something said so like straight like that to my face before, and I don't think I was suicidal. I was 19. I look back and they were probably some of the best years of my life. But just wondered why it happened, and just did a bit of thinking about life at 19, and I ended up going home and told Mum and Dad and they were but they were very supportive, and it all worked out good in the end. Again, like I said, he left town long after, but again, if I had seen him, I reckon I would have probably chatted to him and asked why I said it. At the time, I just thought the best thing to do was just leave the situation. So, that was just one of those things over the journey that wasn't so easy. Words can hurt, and
What was the quiet place that you went to?
Just up above Harvey there, there's like a little river and just a peaceful place.
Was there anything specific about that place that drew you to go there that evening?
Probably because it was close. I live in Mile Up, and I just didn't want to go straight home. I just had to process it. And it was a little weir, that's what we call it back home. So that a lot of Harvey people probably end up watching this. So they're the little weir, and again, I believe it made me stronger.
It does sound like you're very mature at quite a young age.
I think so. And again, I give my brothers credit too. They've always been good to chat to, and it was even Kelvin. He had to adapt because being the first child, then I came along with what I've had to go for. Mum's attention had to go a lot on me. And so Kel, that would have been hard for a kid to, but he's been so strong throughout it all, and always up, like I said, my protector as an older brother and my younger brother. So just having them, and they've always been helpful. So I spoke to them too about this, and every time I've been through something, it's good to just have, and good friends as well.
They always help. And growing up, what was it you wanted to do?
Funny enough, in year 8, I wanted to be a writer.
Right, there we go, you live in the dream.
It's funny how to go through all these different twists and turns, and then I actually did write a book. But I followed my dad into the meatworks. I thought I did year 12, and I thought I'd do a year there until I work out what I want to do. And not unfortunately, because it's not really a passion of mine, but I've stayed there ever since. But I've achieved a lot because I got the government job as a meat inspector, and so I rose up the ranks. And in a way, it's nice because Dad's, as long as these 3 boys were working, any kind of work, he was happy. He's always been a hard worker, and he wouldn't put any pressure on. But I did internally. I got to that point when I seen what, because he was a manager, he was a boss, he really was high up, and I thought, and then to become a meat inspector now, at least I, in my own right, curved out a bit of a decent career as well, like my old man, like Dad. So,
so did your brothers do the same? Were they in the same industry?
Had in the meat works after Dad, and Kelvin's just started his own counselling business. I was saying it to Sean before, so he's going to do very well, I feel, because the path he went down is similar a bit to Sean's, and so he's got that real life sort of story too that it could really help a lot of people, and he had that family support as well, and we never gave up on him, and he's really found his path, and he's really engaged in my brother Kelvin, so he's going to go well with his counselling business. And Andrew, Frog, Frog, that's been his nickname for as long as I can remember, he's a rigger, so he sort of makes pretty good money there, so we've all done pretty well.
Right, Joel, we've jumped ahead a bit here. I want to go back to school years and focus on this for a little bit and find out more about what you were like at school. Like, who were your best friends at school? Were your brothers and sisters in school with you? Did you have a girlfriend? Things like that. What subjects were you interested in?
Quite a few questions there.
Kelvin's 2 years older, Andrew 5. So I did have a girlfriend in school. I haven't had one since, but
Can you give us
I've got a lot of female friendships. I seem to
give us the whole story of the girlfriend?
Nicole. Her name was Nicole.
How old are you guys?
Primary school. And I thought that was my big real big true love. So, and we used to kiss a bit, and having a girlfriend in primary school, I was pretty excited. And
What was your first kiss like? Can you remember?
was that?
What was your first kiss like? Can you remember?
We got told off by the teachers. We went and hit and made out at primary school. And so her name is Nicole. And I got on Facebook, and she's in Rockingham these days. So she was my girlfriend in primary school. And I mentioned Normie. I wrote about him in my book. His family moved to Harvey in 1989.
Who was he?
Normie. He was probably my best friend still today. He's like Wild Man Zoo, I feel like. 10 years old when he moved to my hometown of Harvey, and just struck up a good friendship straight away. And then I got Bomber, Kim Haynes. I was good friends with him all through school. I mentioned a few were drifted. A few other mates came into my life later, but Normie's one that's been there all through school. I was friends with Jono quite a bit in school, and then me and him, I was groomsman at his wedding 2 years ago. So I was lucky. I had a good network. Jacko was a good friend through school. I used to go on, he had a dam at his place, and we used to get on the canoe and go canoeing. So Brendan Jackson, he was Kelvin Rods, he's still one of my closest good friends today. And I got like Adam Fraze. So yeah, a lot of them, but Normie's probably the one that I think I'd say he's probably my best mate. But
You said you were very popular at school, weren't you?
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's pretty exciting. Kenny Spence, so he was a big guy, the one that was always good at sports. So I thought, having him as a friend helps, because
Were you good at sports?
I tried, but Dad was always the coach. He was always very sociable and working out in the community. And I played football. I kicked 5 goals once, but that was about it.
So what subjects did you choose?
And English I liked. I remember in the book I wrote about Dead Poets Society, and I got an A in Year 12 and Robin Williams impacted that Carpe Diem, seize the day, is a really big meaning in my life. So English mainly. I was no good at maths. I was never going to become a counsellor or nothing like that, but I'll say English, I reckon. That was the main one, and probably why I graduated Year 12.
You graduated Year 12?
Yeah, I've got a photo of me and my good friend Coralie in there.
Oh, we got plenty of photos in here.
So that was from starting off not knowing to go through and graduate was a pretty big achievement. So
there's only one criticism I have about this book, about this awful photo you have of a strange man.
I had to put Sean in the book.
Yeah, so Sean's
That's
in
the
the book.
first page I turned to as well.
Oh, how unlucky.
I think that's the Coralie there. That one there.
This one.
And Coralie.
Oh, look at
Coralie
look
was
at-
the school
can I turn around?
captain, and I've actually written another book, and she's editing this second book for me.
Blonde hair.
She
Yes,
went
yeah.
to university as a journalist, so I couldn't have asked for. And having a friend that I've had for that long is pretty exciting. So Coralie's editing the second book for me.
So yeah, you go on to a point in your life where something very unfortunate happens to your best friend.
Yeah, PJ, Paul. He was another one that was meant to mention. Paul came to Harvey in 96, and I met him in 97. And
How old are you at this point?
I
Sorry.
was 92, I was been 18. Paul's a few years younger, 16. His mum and dad owned a Wokey pub. So obviously me and him were going to become friends because I like to have a beer. And we met in 97. And it was he graduated Year 12 2 years after I did in 98. And then he did the same as me, came out to the meatworks, we were working together. A lot of my other friends were on nights, and me and Paul ended up on days. So just working together, we already had a friendship. I remember the summer of 90, I'm getting a bit teary too again, 98, 99, you know, when they just had those summers to look back on all these years, it just seemed like it was me and Paul that summer doing everything together. And we just to ride the push bikes into Harvey on our lunch break. And I remember the cops pulled us over once for not wearing a helmet. But it was just a magical summer. And coming into the end of the summer, I've heard about these things called mystery flights. And where they buy a ticket and they fly you to anywhere in Australia to spend a day there and they come home. And I thought, and obviously Paul was my best mate at the time. My closest mate I've seen a lot, and I mentioned it to him, and he was straight away, let's do this. Let's do it. So we got the tickets, and then they rang a few days later, so he's off to Sydney. And out of all the places, I think me and Paul would have been, we hope we get Sydney. So we drove up there. I remember we went to the pub when we finished work on a Monday, because we were heading off on the Tuesday. And as you do when they're young, he was 17, 18, I was not. 20, just turned 20. And we're having a quiet beer, and every time someone came into the pub, we'll be like, catch us later, we're off to Sydney, just harmless fun. And I remember driving around Harvey, we had the window down, me and Paul, and catch us all when we get back from Sydney. And it's just, still gets a bit teary now, that memory. And we stayed at Paul's mum and dad, Paul's pop's place, his granddad's, and his grandpops, and stayed there the night. Then we flew over on the Tuesday, and just spent a magical day in Sydney. We got some good photos of the Opera House, the Harbour Bridge, and then funnily Paul's uncle Mick was a detective who lived in Sydney. So we went and met up with him for a beer, and then he drove us to the airport in the car, and we said, we've got to go through King's Cross. So we went through King's Cross, and I was like, we should miss our flight just so we can stay here a bit longer. But then we thought, no, we better get back. We've got work tomorrow. And just one of those days that I look back on years later and how magical it is. And sadly, 2003, Paul died in a car accident. And I was with him we were at the footy club together, and, you know, doing the drunk, had an arm around him. Well, Sydney was just the start. We're going to go to America next year. Let's start travelling. And he was there, you know, you're seeing that boosted, and obviously it's all in the book. Woke up next morning and he died on the way home. And rest in peace, mate, Paul. But that Sydney trip, it's just sometimes something like that can influence that. And I remember I mentioned about people staring before. When we were at that bar that day with Mick, someone was staring, and that was the first time I didn't let it get to me. I remember thinking, I'm here with my best mate, having the best day of my life. And ever since then, staring has never really bothered me. And was it meant to be? So Paul's been gone now 20 years, but the memories live on. And in the book as well. And every time I go to Sydney, I always like to just reminisce for him and go to a bit of a walk. And just having that memory. The summer of 98 was a pretty magical summer.
How did you find out about Paul's death?
I woke up in my good mate Adam's car. Adam's another good mate. I wrote a lot about him in the book. I'll go to him later on. But I wrote up because obviously he was being drinking, so he wasn't going to drive home. So I stayed, you know, it was back in the day to sleep anywhere, don't you? So I ended up waking up in Adam's car, and I was like, I can't find my phone. It was after the Harvey show, so they had all packed up. Adam's car was still at the Oval, and then I went to the payphone to try and ring a taxi, because my car was just out of town at the ranch. That's a good mate's that we used to stay at. And I always used to leave my car there. It was like a party house. And trying to go there and couldn't get through. And then I was walking back to Adam's, and I seen one of the younger guys, the younger brother of another good friend of ours, walking towards me. His name was Adam as well, Adam Francis. And there he came. I was, I had to pull up. You know, it was a good night last night. I could see he'd been crying, and he was holding back a bit. And then he was like, then, have you heard about PJ? Because he knew his older brother was Daniel was one of our group. And I was like, oh no, what did he do? What happened? He was killed in a car accident last night. And I remember I'd been on the booze all the next day. I was already feeling a bit under the weather, and to just hear that, it just didn't seem real. And then, we had a quick, then I went back to Adam's car, and I just sat in the back again, and nothing felt real that morning. Nothing, and it's just he's gone. His Paul actually gone. It's just, and then Adam rocked up. Someone gave him a lift to get his car. We're small town people, and got talking to Adam, and I think, and then Adam goes, "You heard about PJ?" And he didn't have any much detail. We just heard that he had been killed, and because he knew him pretty well as well. Everyone knew PJ, and so then Adam gave me a lift. I got in my car, went home. Mum and Dad, because Mum's been trying to ring me all morning. She stresses as it is, and when she heard about Paul, she couldn't get a hold of me. And then I walked in. I went straight to my room, and that's when I let go of my emotions. It's in the book, and I just curled up into a ball and just cried my eyes out. And my nana came over to try and comfort me, but my parents thought, we'll just let him cycle it through, and they just let me, sleep it off. But it was a surreal day. It's something, and you've been through it, Sean. I think there's a lot, losing a wild man and that. They're deaf, I know it comes, but I remember, being a big funeral, we knew everyone. So I think small town again, the support that everyone gave each other who knew Paul helped us all get through it, and so it was 20 years ago in October this year.
I lost one of my friends when I was 19, and it sort of brought me back to that situation of how everything felt surreal.
Yes.
Like, I remember it took a good 5 to 6 hours before I actually believed she was dead.
Yes.
And you go through all those motions, don't you? Of like, this isn't real. He's still there. But I found the hardest part definitely was the funeral. What was his funeral like for you?
Oh, it was massive, and again I wrote about it in the book. And again, it's good because I went with friends. Mum and Dad obviously were there to support, because Dad was actually working with Paul's dad at the time. Then Paul got a job there, so Dad was meant to pick him up that morning. So obviously there was a connection there. He, not only with being one of my best mates, but there was a connection that Dad had with the family as well. And I took the week off work, and it was a pretty surreal week, and just pretty much stayed in my room. Then Thursday I went out to Matt and Luke's place because they were Adam's brothers, and I was very close to all three of the boys. And Adam was on his way to the US because he was leaving, and we thought it'd be a bit surreal, but we thought, well, Paul would still want Adam to go, so Adam was off on his big adventure. But yeah, just a surreal time. And I remember I went for a dark summer, that summer, 03, 04, and I thought a lot about life. I'll park my car up down the beach, and I didn't tell my mum and dad. I didn't want them to worry, but I think that's when depression first really hit my life. And I think that, to be honest, I took some light from that darkness because I've seen the world. I've gone on and done what I have, and I think that summer I had to go through that, I feel.
Joel, when you went back to your house and you went into the room and your family couldn't console you, what was going through your head when you was in that room?
Yeah, just I was thinking about Paul's family, and as I wrote in the book, we're all given tools to cope. And as I was pretty honest in the book, the one, not regret, because I know they understood, I didn't go and see Paul's family. And it was at the wake that Paul's mum actually came to see how I was. And I feel, looking back, it should have been the other way around. But as I wrote, I didn't have the tools at that time to know how to deal with it. So that's how strong his family are, especially his mum. And yeah, it's just, and again, like I said, Harvey, I was only early 20s, so I've obviously had a big weekend. And it just felt so weird.
Because, of course, your trip to America that you were talking about with Paul must have been so prominent in your mind.
Yes. Yeah.
When you found that awful news out.
That's a good question because what meant a lot, and Dad's going to get a good bit of credit here, because Dad knew that at that point in my life I wasn't confident enough to travel on my own. Paul's, a friend from home was always going to be my travel partner, and then Dad goes, I'll come with you. And that's the type of guy he is.
Oh.
So 04, I got to do my first ever overseas trip with Dad. And to look at me now travelling the world solo, so some things start somewhere, don't they?
I was going to ask how you got over your grief and the loss there.
I think that helped. I think just knowing, again, family's big, and Dad, when he said that, least it gave me something to look forward to. And I've always been close to Dad, but just doing that first ever trip. And I believe that there's something, the great beyond, I call it. Paul would have known that I've gone on, and I call it the great beyond. We're all going to go there one day.
Exactly.
And you said that you felt like you'd got through that darkness. So what was the shift that took place? How did that take place?
I think just my friends, Kelvin, my older brother, he just senses it, and he used to come and find me in my car, and we'll listen to music together. So Kelvin, he was big too. Because he'd been through he lost a lot of mates too, and so he knew, he'd had it with losing friends at a young age. I'm probably lucky it's only really happened that one time, and so Kel was big. My mate Matthew Fraser, I haven't heard from him for a while, but at that point you always remember who was there. And Matty, he was that type of guy that was pretty switched on, and even in his early 20s knew I wasn't right. So he was one I remembered. Took the time. Adam was obviously in America, but I'll give Adam credit here. Out of all the friends, he was the one that helped me to travel overseas, because he was the type of guy that was just so carefree, and the carefree years was, I'm off to Canada to live now, and he's just that type of guy, and he just did it. He went over there, played Aussie rules, moved furniture for a job, and so he would always ring back, and he knew how much I wanted to travel, and he was like, come stay with me in Canada. So having that friend from home, Adam, really helped. And, back when I wasn't a confident traveller, he was. And I remember one time he liked stopping in Thailand. He always come home in the summer just to see his family and then head back to Canada to work. And one time on the phone, he goes, come and meet me in Thailand. I want to show you what Thailand's all about. So me and Adam did a trip I met him in Thailand in 2006, and we did about 3 or 4 weeks together, just travelling all over. Adam was a big traveller back then, so I give him, and I've got some photos in the book of him. And so I think just having that help too, just having that support. And again, when someone in a small town does pass, I think we all feel it. Everyone knew Paul, so it's surreal, but thinking it'll be 20 years in October.
Joel, you said that music helped. Did that include Kenny Rogers, the gambler?
The gambler? Well, he loved that. Did I write that in the book? Something?
Yes, you did.
Yes, he loved that. And I remember that really at the wake, because we're all drinking in memory of Paul, because he liked to party. We all did. And I remember just the gambler came on, and this girl I knew, and I remember she was hugging me, and I was just bawling my eyes out. Then the next thing I knew, there was about 5 people hugging us, and we all came together. And then I remember everyone got in a circle, linking arms with the gambler. The gambler was on, and one of the guys, I think it might have been Leaf Fence, walked into the middle and held up a lighter, lit lighter. And I think that symbolises the essence of life and death. We're all burning brightly while we're here, and the flame is carried on by those left behind. I wrote that in the book, so yeah.
I love that.
And whereabouts are we now on your chapters? Because I'm looking at some of the chapter titles and they're brilliant. Are we anywhere near
12?
With 12, I was going to say 14, which is Lend Me an Ear. What is the story behind that?
Lend Me an Ear. There, Sean's probably read this one. There's a funny one, a drunken story. I remember the Rants, the party house, Cozzo. Yeah, Cozzo's another good mate. And I remember went out there and started drinking, and there was a 21st at the old golf club. That was a hall where a lot of the parties were held. And I went up there, and again, I was pretty honest in the book, the drinking. I've always been a funny, happy drunk, but blackouts, not remembering. I think that's something I had to really pull back in, and still something I battle today. But again, I'm always funny, happy, and back then I was just all guns blazing, and I can't remember much. And I woke up on the couch at the ranch and sort of, where's my ear? Is it here? Did I take it? No, nowhere to be seen. Because I hadn't seen it. So I remember going back into town. This was the next day, so I could drive again. I went out to a few people who were at the party to ask, have you seen my ear? And no one had. Went up the old hall. No one had seen it. So and I thought, well, I'm the only one in town with one ear, so it's got to turn up eventually. And then someone found it, took it out to Cozzo out to the ranch because I was home during the week. I remember on the Friday, Cozzo texted me, yeah, they're coming for beer. Oh, by the way, the ear's on the mantelpiece. You can pick it up. And so, yeah, so it was on, I put it on, did a bit of a dance, and because I didn't want to get another one at that time in my life. But yeah, so they lent me an ear. So it was missing for a week, but yeah, ended up turning up.
Quite fortunate you found it, really, yeah.
Yeah, but again, it would have just been another journey to Perth to get a new one.
Have you had many New Years, or is it just the
Oh,
one?
I've lost count, I think.
Really?
I always like to say, like, at the mantelpiece at the ranch, we always have a special moment in history.
Joel, so you went on this first holiday with your dad. You know, you used to go with PJ. How did that feel for him not to be there, but to be with your dad?
It was sad not to have PJ there, but I guess it was a special thing to have Dad. Dad's seen a lot of Australia. He was never really in overseas, so to have him there, and Dad's like me, a bit of a lad, like sort of most times he'd be down the bar at the hotel having his beers most evenings. So he enjoyed it, and yeah, I think as I got older and I look back, it means even more as well, just to do that first ever journey with Dad. And he's 70 something now, and yeah, I think it's was special.
Where did you go?
We stopped in Hong Kong on the way over, did Canada, and we caught the train from Toronto to the Rocky Mountains, ended up in Vancouver. So love Canada. It was a good start to my travels. And again, Dad's, if I wanted to do something, like, he wasn't keen to come out to the islands, I was, so I'll go out there. And I think I was still in my 20s, came from a small town. I don't think I could have done like what Adam did. Adam had that different sort of confidence just to be able to, but I found it later on in life. And again, it's these little things that happen over the years to get me to where I am today.
So you say that gave you the travel bug, as it were?
Yeah, I think I've definitely caught that over the years, and I think that's where it all started. It was always my dream to see America, Golden Gate Bridge, seeing that on TV as a kid. That's a massive bridge, and it's funny how you can dream of, just going to see a bridge, and then it ends up being the life, travel.
So after that trip to Canada, where was the next trip?
The next one was with Adam, back to Canada. My friend Rhino, me and him, because he was friends with Adam too, and with Rhino, on the way over, he said, I'm never coming home. Oh, he loved his family and that, but Rhino was just that different sort of character. No, I'm going to live in Canada. I mean Adam a lot. No, you'll end up moving back eventually. And he met a Canadian, and now he's settled in Vancouver. So he was a man of his word. He's come home for holidays, but yeah, so that was the first one, me, Adam and Rhino. And obviously back then, mid-20s, was a lot about the pub crawls, chatting up the bar, mate, in the 20s. And I miss it. They were good times.
So tell us more about these chatting up the barmaids.
Yeah, well, just going to the bars, chatting to them, and waking up the next day. So we do a bit of sightseeing. I'll go to the bar first and end up then staying there. But we did do one thing which Adam was smart about, because he was moving furniture. Lloyd was a legend. That's his boss. And he loved me, and he called me his Reds, and I think Brother Legend or something like that. And yeah, we're going well, and Adam goes to me and Rhino that they had to do a trip out to Prince Edward Island if we would like to come along, and that'll probably keep us off the booze for a week. I thought, and it'd be a good way to see a bit more of Canada. So we jumped in a big semi-trailer up in the cabin there. So there was me, Adam, Rhino, and Lloyd, and that was a good journey. And I remember Adam saying on the way back, he was asking about the trip I did with Dad, and he said something that I didn't think of. He said, you know that you've been from one side of Canada to the other by semi-trailer, by bus, train. I didn't think it, so that was pretty surreal.
I keep picking up on the name Rhino.
Yeah, Ryan, his name, so we just called him Rhino. He was a big boy. He was one of those characters that sort of larger than life, that just sort of knew he was there. And back in the day, obviously, there, But yeah, Rhino.
You still friends now?
I haven't heard from him before. Adam's heard from him. But
Get in touch.
He's the type of guy that will pick up where we left off, I feel. I've got a lot of people like that as well, that you just know they've got that connection that you'll probably always have. But Adam's still, he's in Perth these days. I actually met up with him for lunch before I flew out for this trip. So Adam's still regular in my life as a close mate. And Jono, Kelvin Rods, Normie Haynes, Ash Davis. He's another one of my good mates I wrote about in the book. So I've got a good network.
Joel, after the trip with your dad, you ended up in Binningup, where you got in an altercation with a guy who put you in a chokehold.
Yeah, he sort of came up
Could
to
you
me.
describe the whole thing from the very beginning? Why were you there? Thank you for watching the podcast. Here's a word from our sponsor, Rocket Money. Don't you hate it when you've got subscriptions out there that you don't know about, taking all that cash out of your account? I recently found out I had 4 Amazon Prime subscriptions. Now I've got it down to 1. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills, all in one place. Most people think they're spending $80 on their subscriptions, when in reality the number is closer to $200. When you're signed up for so many things like streaming services you used to watch one show, or free trials for delivery you don't use, it's so easy to lose track of what you're paying for. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Sean, SHAUN. That's rocketmoney.com, SHAUN, rocketmoney.com/Sean. Thanks for supporting our sponsor. Link is in the description box on YouTube. Back to the podcast.
I was drinking with a mate in Loop, Molesy, all these nicknames. And then just out of the blue, I did a party in Binningup. And I'd had quite a few. He'd had a few, but he wasn't so bad. I'll drive your car. So we ended up at this party. And I knew everyone. They all knew me because I was Binningup, mile up. We all had that connection. And there was a kid there. And I think as I walked past, because I think he was standing, but I was like, cheers, mate, g'day. No, nothing. There's no malice, nothing. I said, cheers. And he went and said to his dad, I said something to him. And so as I was leaving, the dad just came up in a rage and was really, and that's the only time I've been lucky. And on the booze, I've never got myself into any. I've always been funny, happy, and get away. But just sort of started to get a bit out of hand.
What did he say to you?
He said, he's only a kid. What did he say to him? I said, I just gave him the thumbs up. Cheers. And he just didn't want. I think he was in an angry mood. And so he sort of just grabbed me. But the thing is, I think it was Fui and the two of the boys, Sabbath, came up and was getting him off me. They were looking after me. I think we all look after each other, don't we? Again, I think the guy is a good guy. I think he even knows my old man. He was just going for a bit. And again, you can't hold on to things. But lucky that didn't escalate. We sort of left. And it was weird because it's never happened to me before. I'm always the life of the party. Everyone's boosting. And it's just that night turned a bit pear-shaped, and I remember just waking up with that real low feeling the next day. Just sort of not only a hangover, but I think that was turned into a bit of a scene. And just why do people get sometimes worked up over things when And fair enough, if I had said something malice to a child, but I didn't.
What were you thinking when he came up to you so aggressively?
I was just trying to calm him down. Mate, I'm a happy guy, and I didn't say any, and then that's when he sort of lucky he didn't hit me. I think he had heard of my story, and this was back in 2005, and again I think he knew my dad, and I did hear afterwards he felt a lot of remorse. I just haven't seen him, but it's just good having all the boys there that knew me that was able to. Was that?
Yeah, just squad with you.
Yeah, so it was pretty, not one of the best nights, but again, every other night I've been out, I've had an awesome time.
So most of the people who've approached you and been quite rude, have they all been sort of drunk people on a night out? And
yes, so those two instances, yes. So I think everyone's got good in them, and I remember Sean said this, is a focus on the good that helps it to come out. So I've had 2 Tonys as well. So.
Wow. Joel, chokehold's quite serious. Someone can put you to sleep within seconds. What did you feel at that point? Were you scared?
I was sort of scared. It sort of happened pretty quick. He sort of just got me and sort of, didn't feel that tight. But and that's when I remember the other boys just punched at his arms, and then he let go. And I think straight away it happened quick. I think he realised that I made a mistake here. I think he just got worked up over something, and And yeah, I remember driving home after work that week, and I just pulled over and again started crying. I think it was just a bad week. And again, you can't let a bad week become a bad life. You just got to stay positive, don't you? And again, it was just awesome because all the boys backed me up. They were there, and after I'd left, I heard that one of the boys, they got in each other's, the guy who did it, so they were sticking up for me, which is good. They all knew me. And it sounded like, I think he just broke up with his missus or something. I think he was just going through saying that and just got angry that night. And again, no hard feelings, and like I said, it wasn't like it was full on, like really, where I thought my life's in danger here, but it could have escalated.
Was that the first kind of physical altercation you'd had with somebody?
Yeah. No, I'm always life at the party and boosting up, and again, I seem to make friends pretty easy.
But the first time, I mean, someone else has kind of been physically harmful towards you.
I think that was so. Yeah, and to have only it happen once is probably doesn't happen often, especially someone who's always outgoing and that. So again, I think it's on these things that can make or break you.
Has it ever happened without your friends there to back you up?
I don't know if it could have got worse, but I always appreciate the bidding up through because they were straight onto it straight away. So, that's Joel, and he's in a bit of trouble. So, and I think they did know the other guy too, but they took my side and yeah. Again, I've heard the other guy's actually a decent bloke. It was just probably having a bad going through something, and I think that's the sad thing about society in a way. When people are going through stuff, sometimes they take it out on others, and it's just that cycle we've got to try and break.
Have you been in a situation with someone when you didn't have your friends there?
Not that I know of. I'm just trying to think. No, I've been pretty lucky. I've always sort of been surrounded by good friends. And again, I've done a lot of solo travelling, and I've been to some places. I remember in Belfast, and the taxi driver dropped me off at my hotel, and he pointed to a pub across the road. Whatever you do, don't go in there. They're the people who don't want to, so gave me the heads up. So silly me, a few days later, I'm going to go in there. But nothing happened. I just thought I just want to go in. And I
Push the boundary.
Challenge.
so I remember looking at the bar, and all these faces turned. They all had this stern look on their faces, and I remember seeing the sign, dining upstairs. Okay, I'm going up for a meal. So I don't know how hard they would have been to talk to, but I went out there, had my meal, and as I walked down, I had a quick look, and they turned again, and back to my hotel. so I thought, I always try to make friends. So I thought, no, I'll just
keep your head down this time.
Yes,
Get out.
So you said about your friend Adam really helping you through that transition to travel solo. When was it that you actually sort of embarked on travelling on your own?
Well, yeah, obviously Adam's back in Perth now. I did 2014. I had Luke, he's Adam's brother. As I mentioned, I was close to all three of the boys. I think my first solo trip entirely, and I wrote in the book, I struggled a bit with it because there was some feelings of loneliness, and that was the trip I first met you, Sean. And I did the UK, Scandinavia, Iceland, and that was a big thing for me because that was even though I was catching up with a friend, Jackson, I hadn't seen him for 20 years, but I knew him from Harvey. I was going to see a friend. This was the first time that was going to be made like a major trip solo. I wasn't doing any tours with any friends. And again, I struggled a bit with that because I think my first trip, we all got to take those steps. And the big highlights when I came home, I always analyse each trip and self-reflection, was meeting you, Sean. That was a big highlight.
Thank you.
And I think spending that week or that 2 days with Jackson Hassel, he actually sent me a message a while ago to say, you actually know Sean because Jackson's a big fan of your work, mate. And he's my friend who lives in Denmark now. He met a Danish girl, started a family, and unfortunately he wanted me to drop by, and I won't get up that way on this trip, but 2016 it was good to see Jackson Hassel, and I think he'll be happy that when he sees this, I gave him a big shout out.
Big shout out.
Shout out to him. Joel, explain to the viewers how you select the people you're going to visit on your trips. I mean, how did you find
I've always been good at keeping in touch, And sometimes things fall into place because I'm missing out on seeing Jackson on this trip that I caught up with him on that one. There was another guy I'm catching up with in Switzerland, Misa. I haven't seen him for 20 years. The way it worked out, I'm going to catch up. I'm only in Switzerland for a couple of days. He's going to come and pick me up in Zurich and take me to his hometown of Bern for the day. So that's exciting. So a lot of it falls into place. I'll just reach out to people I know overseas and it just gives me places to travel to. And obviously I'm going to have to keep coming back to the UK now. I've got a bit of a friendship base here now too. So it's like anything in life, momentum. And yeah, it's exciting. I've got friends all over the world that I can
See, a bit of a travel guide, really.
Why did you come to visit me, Joel?
Why?
Okay, this is a story. When I did that Kentucky tour with Lukey Fraser in 2014, I went to South America first because I had a friend there, Julian, that I spent a week with. Then I did Machu Picchu. And Luke was flying out from Australia to meet me in LA. And Luke's never been a reader. I believe in fate too after hearing this. Luke's never been a reader, but he was at the airport bookstore thinking, well, it's a long flight. I may even glance at a book. And he got 3 books that day, and one was Hard Time. I think it was Hard Time. And who knows why, was it the cover? But yeah, he grabbed your book. Obviously, Luke didn't read any of it on the plane. He's not a reader. But when we wanted to Kentucky together, I remember Luke saying, oh, by the way, Joe, I know you love reading. I got some books from the airport. And I was, oh, yeah, pass them over. So he gave them to me. And we're partying a bit, so it wasn't quite straight away I got to read it. But I remember on a quiet afternoon in Vegas, because we had a big night 4, I was in my room, I thought, so I got the book out, I read the back about you coming from an industrial small town, and I love stories like that. And I just started reading it. Man, this bloke's, it's obviously like my brother, sort of the same sort of path. And it's funny, I got home and I seen you just had a normal Facebook page. And I thought, would he be interested in my story? Reach out. So I reached out to the sauna, and about 2 days later, he got back to me. And I think my story speaks for itself as well. And then obviously we were messaging one another. Then 2016 was when I did that next trip, and I thought, well, I'm going back to England, and you were like, I'd love to meet up. So yeah, I came out to Guildford on that first or second night I was in London, and I remember being nervous. I've read about this guy, now I'm going to meet him. And we went out for dinner with Richard. I remember Richard, I caught up with Richard on this trip. And then I caught up, I remember the next year, so in 2017. And I remember you must have been real busy at that time, because I sent a few messages leading up to the trip. And I hadn't heard back. I thought, well, he's that big, everyone knows Sean. I was that happy to meet him once. And then I was at the airport in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was my stopover on the way over. And I checked my Facebook or my email, and they were like, cool, let me know when to land. And oh, it's going to happen. This is going to happen. Then I sent you, Sean, where my hotel was. You were there the first day. Okay, I'll be there at 10 o'clock to pick you up. And I remember going to the talk that night. And then we did that body combat. You were doing that.
He took you to body combat.
I didn't do it. But Sean said, come out and we'll have dinner afterwards. So I'd body combat I didn't take up. But Sean did.
I tried.
And then we had, and I met your friend Hot Wheels.
Mike Hot Wheels?
Yes.
I had to keep in touch. I didn't really keep in. I got him on Facebook, Sean.
Yeah.
After this, he's one I might reach out to again, because he was lovely. And I've never been a cider drinker, but I had a few ciders that night. And then 28.
Mike's homemade ciders.
Oh, and that's in the book. And then 2018 was my last overseas trip, and we met up again in Guildford, and then out of the blue just said, let's do a podcast. And it's on, I don't know, have you seen it, Jen and Star?
Sure.
But we did that podcast in Guildford. So that was 5 years ago, and look, here we are again. So,
and you were, preparing to do a TED talk, weren't you? And you were very nervous because you hadn't gone on the stage and done anything like that before. What was that whole process of doing a TED talk like?
Oh, yes, I was nervous. I wanted to do it because I felt I needed to get my story out there. I had to start somewhere. Well, TED Talk, it's funny because TED Talk's usually the climax. it seemed like that happened early on in the piece. And I thought, I've got to do this. And I remember I was in Spain and I had a book to be on stage on that Saturday, and I wasn't getting home until Thursday. So I did the Top Deck tour all through Spain. That was one of the best. That was 2017, and that was when we did the caught up 2017. I did a tour of Spain, and I was like, I've got to start practicing this TED talk. But obviously, when in Spain, they're living that, they're partying. And then I remember the tour finished in Madrid. I had 2 days in Madrid, and unfortunately, I haven't seen much of Madrid at all because I was up into my hotel room in front of the mirror. The mind was going off Spain now. I got to be on stage soon, pretty much 2 days after I got home. So I sort of practiced. I've done 1 or 2 talks, and I thought, what areas of my life should I focus on? Because obviously the book was still being written. I still was only halfway through that. And so I did so I like to go back to Madrid one day because I haven't seen much of it, just in front of the mirror in the hotel practicing my speech. And then I got home, I met up with the lady who organised it, and I was like, by the way, how many people roughly are we expecting on Saturday? Oh, only 200. I'm like, I've only done 2 tours. You'll be fine.
So you met with Sean for advice. What valuable piece of information did he give you before your talk?
Well, Sean gave me good advice, which I wrote in the book, was just tell the story. Just tell the story, your story. You know it better than anyone, and you can't go wrong. And so and I remember just Mum and Nana always being my biggest supporters, Dad as well, but Mum and Nana came with me to the TED talk. I remember we were having a coffee and my hand was like shaking. I couldn't even hold my coffee. And Mum was like, she was a bit concerned. Are you right? You know? And I said, Mum, carpe diem, seize the day. And I got up, and I think I was one of the biggest impacting talks of that. They're all good talks, but I think my story, and that's when I thought, I got a big ovation afterwards and a bit of a tear in my eye, and that's when I thought I could do this. My story can go places.
How did it feel walking onto that stage, knowing that you were about to be in front of 200 people?
Nervous, but I believe in life, if you've got the chance to make a difference and you're prepared to go under the spotlight, then go for it. And I feel that after today, who knows what the next 5 or 10 years, but again, after PJ as well, it goes, like, why not make a difference in the world while I can? I didn't want to get old, look back. I could have probably done more when I had the chance. And I feel this is what I'm doing now. And I've learned a lot again from Sean, how you just go, just having that mindset. And I think a lot of people do. They get to the end of their lives and they miss their mark, or I think everyone's got that gift. And mine's coming out now.
Sounds like you've really tried to honour life since PJ has passed. Do you think that he's been weaved into your, been your inspiration?
I think so. I think, and I spoke about him at the TED talk. And I think everyone, as you said, Jen, you lost someone close as well. And again, even though they're still here in my family, I give credit where it's due with people like Adam, John O'Marabito. I was a groomsman at his wedding, and that was a funny story that I've got to write another book now to put. I had to get up to Darwin, and all the way, like in Australia with the COVID, WA and Darwin, the borders weren't closed because it was good, but all closed off to the rest of Australia. And the week of the wedding, Darwin had a bit of an outbreak, and I was, am I going to have to quarantine or all these? I thought, he's one of my best mates. I'm a groomsman. I don't know. Let's give it a go. So, and John, I was that proud because a lot of through that situation, some of his family couldn't make it and friends, so he was just happy with the ones who did. So Jono, Normie, I spoke, Kelvin Rods. Kelvin Rods has got a story of his own because at 21, he had an accident. He got blood clots behind his eyes. He was pretty much blind. So with Kelvin Rods' story was different to mine. He lived a normal life until 21, and then he had to adapt, and he's gone on to get married. I was
Slow down, Joel. What happened to his eyes?
He was in a car accident. The car landed on him or something. I don't know the full details, and just got blood clots or optical nerves got damaged. So
He lost his sight.
pretty much, yeah, shadows like, yeah, but yeah, pretty much can never drive. They're hard. Pretty much, don't know how much percent, but lost pretty much his whole eyesight. But the thing with him is, so is the resilience he's got. He's got his own business. He went on to start his own business, get married. I was at the wedding. He's got 2 lovely kids. So I get inspired by my other friends, like they get inspired by me. And then that's when the thing, what he'd had to overcome a year or so ago, he was diagnosed with cancer, bowel cancer. And after already going through that, and he's got young kids, I've been to have a coffee with him quite a few times. Still upbeat. He's admitted to me in a message or over the phone. He has his moments, but he's just so upbeat, and he's a professional bowler, like blind bowler, lawn bowls. So he's making a big impact now. He's going on these tournaments, and he's winning them. He's like vision impaired bowl, and even after the cancer diagnosis, it seems like he just needs something to keep going. And Kelvin Rhodes, like, you'll probably hear this podcast. I think I get inspired by him as well. And also, like my other good mates, I came and spoke what Adam did. So I know Normie, Ash Davis, so Greg Afro. It's quite a few. I think just having all these good support networks help.
And you and your friends sound so inspirational. Do you have a message for people who take advantage and moan about their mundane 9-to-5 life?
Was that?
Like, you and your friends, you have such a positive approach to life, and being your friends been through cancer and such hardship. Do you have a message for people who perhaps moan about their
Yes.
boring life
Yes.
on a 9-to-5 basis?
Because I think a lot of people play that victim card, victim in law, and I think that's why if I get my story out there, it gives people hope to, oh, look what he's overcoming, and I think we're not here forever, and I've had heaps of moments when I don't want to go to work, like just the day-to-day stuff. We all struggle. We all face adversity. I think everyone's got something, and they may not see it from the outside, but as I've gotten older, I found that I think everyone's gone through something. And I think just getting my story heard could really inspire people. And again, like someone like Kelvin Rhodes, he's the most humble guy, so he doesn't go chasing any of the recognition that he's getting. That small town, like he was in the local papers, and and I caught up with him for coffee only last month, and it's just good having those, we help each other.
So one of your dreams was to fly a plane.
Yeah.
Did you do lessons, flying
Yes,
lessons?
08, 09, I went to Bunbury Airport. Obviously, it wasn't one of those big Boeings. It was a little Cessna, but I was taking lessons. And there's a funny story, and this is actually true. My family will back it up. I was going well. I was getting closer to my solo flight. And then I was up there with the trainer one day. This was early in 09. And I had to control the landing. So I had the full control. So I was coming down, and it was all lined up with the runway. I got a bit excited, so I put the nose down a bit quick. And all of a sudden, those sparks, the wheel had come off. So we were dragging. The front wheel had snapped clean off, and the trainer, lucky I was with an awesome trainer, he just took control, and no, I got it, mate, I got it. So he sort of got the nose back off, and we went off into the grass, and he sort of got it so it could stop, like as smooth as you can. And I was like, he was like, oh, don't worry about it. And I remember thinking, like what he said, he said, these things happen. I remember thinking, yeah, wheels must fall off airplanes all the time. And I got home that day and I thought, I'm going to stick to travelling the world. Put the flying lessons off to a later
Someone
date.
else can fly the plane.
Yes. One day, but I've been thinking about, I may go back and finish what I started. But if I had done both, then who knows, I may not have travelled as much because each lesson costs a bit too. So I think it's life finding out what the passenger, and I thought I was probably safer travelling the world, and even though I've been reckless and partying up, not remembering going back to my hotel rooms, I still think that's safer than flying an airplane.
So you like a good party. Where would you say serves the best beer in the world? I've got to know this.
There's some good ones here in the UK. I've been drinking Beck's lately. Back home, I drink a beer, Great Northern. I'm a beer drinker.
Beer connoisseur.
Was that?
Beer connoisseur.
There's a lot of beer. I dabbled a bit in my younger years, vodka, bourbons, but again, in the book with the binge drinking, I got to a point where I had to address that, and I think beer, always, again, wake up, not 100% next day, but if I wake up on vodka or bourbon, it's sort of wasting the whole next day, and with that look, then you'll probably had a few
I've been there a
hangovers.
few times, yeah.
So it's just working out now, and I'm sticking to the mids back home, so I think that's an honest thing too, because with the binge drinking, I think it, without realising habits can get a hold of you. And I don't want to give it up completely, because it's a social fabric. I love to sit there having a beer anywhere in the world, and it's a good way to strike up a conversation. It is a good icebreaker, and to meet characters in pubs.
Has there ever been times in your life where you feel like you've needed a drink a bit more than wanted a drink?
Yeah, I think I've had those moments. I would never have been an alcoholic, but when I've been through the dark times and that. But then again, I was always pretty good, and I did a lot of self-reflecting on that solo trip, and I was in Stockholm. And I was falling into a bit of a dark place mentally. I was in such a beautiful city, and I remember just trying to tap into that. So I thought, okay, it always worked until now. So I was sort of just going to a few different bars, trying to chat to different people, but it felt like it was getting darker. And I found it was sort of like not angry, just a real low, sad mood. And I thought, well, alcohol's always done the opposite. But then I've come to believe it influences what moods you're feeling. And I've always been happy, having a good time with my mates. I'm in that mood. In Stockholm, I was more feeling down. I think I was trying to get the alcohol to lift me back up. And I remember I was staying on a moored boat. That was my hotel. I thought that looks interesting. So I was staying on a boat, and I was back one night after one of my pub crawls, and I was standing on deck thinking, should I jump overboard? I really want to take my life, but I was feeling pretty low. Mum and Dad will think it was just an accident, but I remember something in me, just get back to the room, tomorrow's a new day. Just get back to the room, stop overthinking it. So I went back to my room, and that's what I believe. I believe whenever you're feeling like that or get to that stage, there's always another day, new day, new hope. And even the next day I was still feeling a bit low, but something in me I knew had changed, that I know how to overcome these feelings now.
Why were you feeling low in the first place?
I think in the book there was a Canadian girl. I don't want to, not only that, I think I've always been single, and I met a Canadian. That's a bit of a sad story. And I met her.
Is this Ivy?
Was that?
Is this Ivy by any chance?
No.
This is another one.
No, I changed her name because I want to do everything right if I'm not right with someone. She's the only one, luckily, that I met her in a canteen. Lovely lady. We're going pretty good. And met her. She's from Toronto. And obviously, when I got home, I was she's like everyone else, she was replying my message. So built up a bit of a friendship. And I was in Canada for Flemo, my cousin Fleming's wedding in 2012. And we caught up, spent a great day in the islands together. And again, it goes back to, I remember I went with Adam, because Adam was living in Canada, him and Newbie, before I was going to meet Marcia. That's her made-up name. I don't want to, because I still believe deep down if something good could come out of it, one day we may get a second part of our story, but till then I want to respect her privacy. So Marcia's her name. And we went out to the islands. Before I was going to go and meet up with her, I went to the pub with Adam and Newbie, and I ordered a lemonade. I didn't order a beer. And I said, boy, I know I'm a bit nervous, but I want to really remember this moment with this girl. She's a lovely lady. And so I stayed off the beer, and just one of the best days, we just went out to the islands together, chatted all day, and she was real kind-hearted. And then And obviously, I got back home and sent her a message, say it was great to catch up, and she's pretty high up with psychology, so she's pretty switched on. And she said that I was such a special and inspiring person to know, and after talking to me one day, got her thinking that she'd like to do a documentary on people who have overcome things, and not about me, but I think I gave her the inspiration. And then 2013, I was at the Wokey. I was well behaved for a lot of years before then, but for some reason we all make mistakes, and Sean's would have read this in the book.
Thanks for watching our podcast. This is a word from our sponsor, Shopify. I feel like I'm missing out because everyone is starting a side hustle or their own business these days. And you know what they're hearing a lot? That's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're selling books or events like us, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can successfully grow your business. Shopify covers all your sales channels, from a shop-front-ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. Shopify even gets you selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Full of the industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth, Shopify gives you complete control over your business and your brand without learning new skills in design or coding. And thanks to 24/7 help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. Look, there's so many options out there to expand your business these days. And what's lovely about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify will be there to empower you with the confidence and control to take your business to the next level. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/Sean, SHAUN, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/Sean to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/Sean. That's the word from our sponsor. Thanks for watching. Link in description. Back to the podcast.
I drove out there, but I was like, okay, I'll just get a taxi or stay at a friend's place like I normally do. One thing led to another, got to the blackout stage, and this is 10 years ago now, and I don't know why, could I not get food or taxi? Mum was always going to come and pick me up. I don't know what I was thinking, especially losing PJ years ago, but I drove, and in no good state at all to be driving, and I took full responsibility in my book, because I've got to be honest that we all make mistakes, we do things that we're not proud of, and I ended up driving one of the back roads out to Mile Up, went around the corner, and I ended up jumping the drain, just missing the pole that took my mirror off. If I had hit it straight on, there would have been no more. I reckon I wouldn't have survived. And I ended up in the paddock, and so being drunk, there's pizza all over the car, so I must have stopped and got pizza on the way through. But then I pulled up into the back seat to sleep it off, and then the next thing, the cops must have been coming by, and they were knocking on the door, and I jumped out then I was like, how did I get here? And then the cops, they took me back for the breath test, which is, I knew I was done for. And I got done drink driving, lost my licence for a few years because I had the accident. And then I broke down, and Mum and Dad, they were disappointed, but they supported me because, we all make mistakes, and I've only just started a new job with the government too, so all these things are going through my mind. That's why I really wanted to get on top of the binge drinking. To make one, it could impact the whole lot. One choice after having too many beers. So I'm very lucky, but I sort of went to court, lost my licence. I showed a lot of courage because I went and seen the cop that booked me. I thought it was the right thing to do. Apologised. He sat me down and said, I've heard a lot of good things about you in the community, mate. Just showing a lot by coming and see me. They were very polite. They made our job a lot easier. And I felt a little bit better walking out of the station that day, saying, if anyone can find some positives out of this, will be me. And that's fun by going to see the cop. And he said, if I ever need any references or anything, he'll be happy to, even though he was the one who booked me, he had to do his job. And And that also affected my travelling because I looked it up, and DUI with Canada and the US, they're very strict on that sort of stuff, aren't they? And obviously Marshall's in Canada. I thought, I might start to do things up here. And I was lucky with the US. I had to go to the consulate up in Perth. They made me jump through hoops, but eventually they stamped my visa for a holiday. So yes, that's one. And for Canada, I had to send away, and I was quietly confident because I've been to Canada 3 or 4 times. I love Canada. And I got into the US, so they were the ones I thought, because they were a lot stricter, but then I heard Canada had become, and they rejected me. They said they're inadmissible to come to Canada, which broke my heart because I love Canada. That was some of the earliest memories. And even though Adam wasn't living there anymore, he'd made the move back. Marcia was there, and I was thinking, and I had feelings for her that I was hoping to catch up with her on future trips, and then I had that light bulb moment. Wait, I'm in the US. If I go out to Niagara Falls, she might want to come down and see me there. And she was like, yeah, I'll come and see them. That's so the type of person she is. So I was that excited. I'm had luck. I'm still going to see her. I had all the hoops, I had to jump through. So I did the trip. Then Luke went off to Chicago for 2 days. I flew up to Niagara. Marcia was going to come and see me on the Saturday. I couldn't wait. I thought I stuffed any chance up of seeing her again. And again, I don't know about, I've come to believe karma is a real thing, karma, because I made my mistakes with the drink driving, but I still, there was a bit of negative energy I put out. And I did a bit when I was 18, 19 with the driving when I've had a few. So, but I'll be honest, in the book, from my early 20s to that one in 2013, I never did it, but just that one times, and the consequences, there's a ripple effect. And yes, so she was going to come down, and I think, did you heard about the Skyway Bridge? There was a truck driver, drunk. He didn't die or nothing, but he had an accident, and they closed it all down, so he couldn't get down to see me. And I thought to myself, there's got to be more to this. The universe had to teach me a lesson, and this is the lesson of, and it's all in the book. And I thought, how lucky is that? And I thought, so she didn't get down to see me, and I could see in the message she felt distressed because, she felt she let me down. And that, but I was, and I thought, no, all good. Sad I didn't get to see her, but then I got back home, and the only time I think I may have done something silly on the booze and something in my personnel. Obviously, I was on the piss all day with a friend, and I got the taxi home, and I still can't remember to this day, but I feel I must have jumped on the laptop and must have just had a go at her for not making it down. Like, no, you could have, that's what I just still don't remember, but that's what I feel. And I don't think, because I'm always the happiest, nicest guy, and I woke up next morning, I think you get that cheapish feeling, and
be a fair.
I think I'd done something I shouldn't have last night. So I did what I straight away checked her for a profile. No more, she had blocked me out of her life. Completely blocked me. And again, I think you manifest what you fear. And to be honest, I probably didn't give myself enough credit because she was such a lovely, pretty lady. I put her on a pedestal, and all I remember was, I just had that fear I was going to get in a blackout, get blocked. So it was going to, because that was our connection, was faithful. I just had that fear, and I gave it so much power looking back. It was every time I had a night when I thought, I'll always check about, do. And I think I learned a lot about the mind just by going through that. I manifested that I gave it too much power, and sadly, that's how it's ended at this point in time. I'm a believer. If something's meant to be, or if our story has another chapter, it will happen. If not, just take the positives out of it. But it's just sad because I did inspire her to do that doco. So it is one of those stories that there's so many unanswered questions in my mind, but again, you just got to find positives, and I can't say a bad thing about her, even though everyone said, she must be harsh to block her. I know they're trying to be nice, my friends, and that, they're better off without us. But no, I look for the good in people too. And I've got to take the lessons from that. And I don't regret meeting her. I think there's still a bit of pain 8 years later because even the friendship I would have been still happy with. But I think everyone goes through something in life where they have a falling out with someone. Probably
Bit of
lucky it's only happened once, but I think it's because of the doco, like what I'd really inspired her, and that makes me think you just never know what the future holds. And again, because things aren't, her name's obviously not Marcia, but I don't think, I just wanted to respect her privacy. So, yeah, and I hope she's doing well. We actually did spend that day together in Canada. There was a story there. It wasn't like we just met and that was it. We actually caught up again. So there was a story.
Well, hopefully she watches this and perhaps gets in touch.
Maybe read the book. She always wanted to read the book. So,
did you want to do your Aussie question or save that to the end?
Well, I've got plenty of them, but right. So they say that the most populated animal in Australia, what would you say it is?
Because kangaroos are well known, but we do. They're the ones you've got to watch out for because they can jump out when they're driving, and you hear a lot of people hitting kangaroos. And
because everyone would assume it was a kangaroo, but I actually know it's something else, which not many people think. And it's only because you said
that the wallaby possum,
camel.
Oh, see, I
didn't know that.
No.
In Australia?
Yeah, because it's more desert than populated, isn't it?
They're like Great Sandy Desert. That's why WA.
How have you known?
WA is so isolated. Perth, probably the most isolated capital in the world. So there's something about us WA people. I don't know. Maybe because of that, we're pretty outgoing, pretty friendly. So I give WA good credit.
You little Trivial Pursuit show off.
Yes, I didn't know that till I went there. And there's also this. There's a prank that the Australians play on the UK folk when we come over, and they say of an animal called a drop bear. Have you heard of that?
Drop bear?
Yeah. It's like a koala with super razor sharp teeth.
Oh, yeah.
They tell all us like travellers that when we come over, that if you've got a backpack on and you're walking like in a wooded area, they will come down and bite you.
Probably, yeah. Good.
But it's not. I believed it the entire time of my trip. I thought there were these vampire koalas that were going to jump from the tree, but it's in fact
they're not a thing.
No,
they're not even real.
I believed
it's like a chupacabra.
So every time they've seen a koala, they would have been packing them in.
Well, they had all these signs like "Watch out, koalas," don't they? And my friend was winding me up, and she goes, "Oh, that was a drop bear sign." And I was like, and because it was too late to see it, and I was convinced these bears were going to jump from trees, but
so they would have the wits about it the whole time. They would have been
looking out for these things that
edge.
didn't exist. If you put it into Google, you can see what they look like.
I'll have a look. Yeah. Did you get over the west?
No, just Sydney and Dubbo.
Yeah, that's funny, because I worked in Dubbo, so that's good to have been there. And the zoo is good.
Zoo is good, and the jail. It's
yes, I did them too.
The oldest
I wrote
jail.
about them in the second book.
Joel, you said that other people's stories inspire you, and this is going to touch a nerve with Jen because she really wants to visit this place. One of those stories is the story of Anne Frank, and you went to visit her house, didn't you?
Oh, I've always had intentions every time I go to Amsterdam, I've got to check out the Anne Frank house. And as I do, I get caught up in the coffee shops and the window shopping. I'll see on this in the book. So I'm off to Amsterdam on this trip. I haven't booked it yet. I've got to do it. Fifth time lucky.
Yeah, Sean studied Anne Frank. Well, he thinks he did.
Very interesting story with all that part of history.
How did you find it, the house then? How was it?
I didn't end up
you got stuck in this...
No, I ended up...
Oh, Joel.
This time, Sean, I told him, I've got to book a tour of the Anne Frank house. And then I'll go to the coffee shops. And
Jen got a glimpse of it, didn't you?
I did. We went on the outside, not the tour, but... what I noticed were all the houses, they're all wonky, aren't they? Because Amsterdam's sinking.
Yep.
Did you think they were just wonky because of the coffee shops?
I think so. Amsterdam's just a place like no other. Have you been there before, Jen? Or was that the
first time,
And you liked it? Because I'd seen that Sean posted it as well.
Jen was raving all day long.
That's the first time you went to Amsterdam?
Yeah, so I couldn't go in the coffee shops.
Oh, gosh.
And the locals were coming up saying, how pregnant are you? And she was like, blah, blah, blah. And this local woman was like, I was at home the whole time I was pregnant. How are you doing this?
Really?
Yeah. Jen's hardcore.
And you went to a festival, didn't you?
Yeah,
as well.
I'm doing it on on this trip. You know, never know if who's who's happy to do another trip now. We can catch up in Amsterdam.
100%, yeah. And this time with no child, so I can visit the coffee shop.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
Yes. So now I love Amsterdam, and this time Anne Frank House, I got to tick it off the list.
Yes.
Hey boys.
Did you go to the museum of? I don't think I can say that.
I did
on
a
podcast,
museum.
actually. Timestamp.
Forget that. Forget it.
I think I did a museum there. Obviously, the memory's a bit I've got a good memory.
His whole memory's hazy.
Speaking of haze.
Amsterdam, you always have fun, but just a place that keeps drawing me back.
So, where is the most interesting place you have visited on so far?
Mike Hot Wheels house.
Yeah, Hot Wheels.
That is
I
interesting.
like Scotland. Scotland's good. There's a lot of Edinburgh's a nice place.
Did you visit all the historical buildings in Edinburgh?
Yes, yeah.
Gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't done Glasgow, but I heard it's a bit different, but Edinburgh I like. Spain, obviously I love the UK. There's a lot happening for me now these days here. So yeah, Canada, so it's a bit sad too. And I believe eventually with no prior convictions, I'll fly and I'll get back in at some point. And maybe having that little break from Canada. Again, just a positive spin on it. I may have kept just going back there to try and try and build something with Marsha. And so things. And again, I'd fallen for her. She probably only wanted to be friends. Maybe it was a blessing, even though it still hurts today. You know, I could have got hurt more if it had kept going for a few more years. So, but that's just me. I still wish all the best for her. Mm. Are we're on air again, or?
Did you end up in LA?
Was that?
Did you end up in Los Angeles?
Yes, yeah. I like LA, a bit overrated, but it was good. I thought Vegas, because he's read the story, Sean, of on one of my famous blackouts. I got a bit carried away in Vegas.
What happened?
Well, we started drinking, and then again, the night became pretty blurry. The next thing, there was a knock on my hotel door, so obviously I always get back to my room. And Luke was there looking for me with the tour guide. I panicked because I wasn't on the bus. So I was there in my underwear. Oh, the bus is leaving. So I had to quickly just obviously put some clothes on. And then as part of the rules of that Kentucky was anyone late for the bus had to dance. And Kentucky Matt, his name was Kentucky Matt, had a big stuffed panther. And they had Jojo, and they had to be Jojo's friend for the day. It means they had to carry this panther around. So I got stuck with Jojo that day, and they stopped to go into a Walmart or something. And here I am, hangover, still not remembering the night before, carrying this big panther around with me. And then I was like, I wonder what happened last night. I hope nothing too bad. Then I went to get some money out. It was declined. And I thought, I still had at least 3,000 or 4,000 left to get me through this trip. Surely not in my mind. The alarm bells started going off. I'll wait till we get to Lake Bass to look further into it. So we got there, then I sort of checked on my phone. I'm pretty sure my transactions. And by the address, and my mate, he was pretty cluey as well. That's a strip club, isn't it? Like, yes. It sounds like I went to a strip club last night. And it sounds like I got carried away, gave him my card, and ended up having fun with about 3 strippers for about 20 hours. And chewed up $3,000 out of
And that's where the £3,000
Sounds like a good investment.
Everyone's got a Vegas story, and I can laugh about it now, but I was lucky, and that shows the type of person I am. Like Luke, he was there, so he was going to help me in any way. And I remember there was, I think, Aaron, that we only met him and Rachel on that trip. He offered to lend me some money. Brody was a good, and that's, you appreciate that because I was down in the dumps. And as I wrote in the book, the next night we were in Bass Lake, and I was making everyone laugh. I was just being that hilarious because I find whenever I'm stressed or going through something stressful, I find it helps by making others laugh. So I was just making jokes about my big night in Vegas. They all loved it. The whole Kentucky were loving it. But deep down, that's a lot of money. And lucky Dad, I got a hold of Dad, and he went and because he knows I'm always good with my debts, I always pay back. And he knew that. So he put some money into my account. So I was able to finish my trip. So Vegas
Arizona.
almost destroyed me, but
Arizona next, wasn't it?
Scottsdale. We did a night in Scottsdale.
And Sedona, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. With
Yes.
the red rock mountains.
Yeah, because you would have seen all that, Sean. Eh?
It's all like the New Age vortex site, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. No, I love that part of the world, like part of the US. So, luckily enough, and as I wrote in the book, I always call it rolling the dice, because I'm always rolling that dice whenever I do something reckless, like, with my binge drinking. And, that first night, I rolled the dice at Vegas, and it was a nice, quiet, tame night. I thought, okay, I'm going to roll it a second time. And looking back on it, I tried my luck too many times, and that second night was never going to end well. But I survived.
Did you meet a real life cowboy in Arizona?
Yes, I seen someone walking past, and he had a hoister with a gun, and obviously it's every day for them. And I was like, I think I was a bit hangover too, and I was like, well, better stand my guard here a bit. But he just walked past, gave me a little bit of a nod, tilted their hat, kept walking.
Where have you not been that you would love to go?
I want to do Croatia. I was going to do that on this trip, but then Slovenia won over, so I couldn't fit them both in. Dubrovnik will be good. Greece, I haven't done Greece. I'd like to go to Seattle. Seattle, there's something about that part of America that I haven't seen. Where else? Some more parts of the UK, like, is it Dover you're saying? Cornwall?
Yeah, saying about Devon and Cornwall and going down to the south coast.
I could come and catch up with you there on the next trip.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's plenty of places, but I think the main ones are, I think Greece and Croatia will be good.
I know it was a hazy night with the strippers, Joel, but you've left a story out here that I've just discovered about a belt buckle getting stuck.
Yeah, I got a,
Nice try.
Yeah. I got a lap dance, and her dress got caught up in my belt buckle, so it was like stuck together.
Oh my God.
And at first, this is a bit too hard. No matter how hard, we couldn't come apart. So we were walking around, still stuck together, to patrons, and even they couldn't get us up.
No wonder they charged you $3,000.
So and I was sober that night. That was the first night.
Oh, this is the second night.
So you went back for more then?
Hold on.
So
You spent $3,000 the first night, and you felt drawn
the
to go
second
back.
night was the $3,000. The first night was a lame night we went, and I got the one lap dance. That was only
just a little taster
just
session.
a little sort of. That's why I thought, this is fun. But then obviously the demon, as I call it, started drinking the next day. Vegas is awesome, isn't it, boys? Then I wake up next day and what happened? So the belt buckle one there, that was a pretty funny story, and lucky she was a friendly enough lady that.
What about the Grand Canyon? That's breathtaking, isn't it?
Oh, loved it. We went, me, Luke, Adrian, Brody. We went for a bit of a walk. Had a look, went to the piano bar. Because you would have done that, Sean. I loved it. Have you done it, Jen and Char?
The piano bar.
No, have you done US?
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon? No. It looks amazing.
Yep.
Vast.
Yeah.
There's a lot
I'd love
to see over
to see
there.
it. Yeah. Recommend. I'll go on my own, obviously. Someone can't enter the country. Is it again?
I'd say I'd come with you, but I
Was
don't think
that?
I can.
I'm on my own. I'll go with you. A couple of them can't visit America for some
I think
reason
we're all
or
in the
whatever.
same boat in that thing. Like, banned from Canada. I was lucky to get into America.
This is actually a competition. Who's banned from which country?
Sean's beating us all, but I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
If I get big enough and famous enough, Sean, I'm sure I can pull strings. I'll try and get you in
Thank
Australia
you, Joel. That'd be
for
great.
what you're doing for me today.
Yeah. So what do you want from life now?
I do a lot of soul searching, Sean. I've always been and reading to Tony's and your friendship there as well. I do a lot of reading. I'm at a point where I really want to push my story. I'm 44. Again, the door's open. I feel the door's wide open. In the next 5 to 10 years, it's my destiny that I can control. Why not go for it? I want my story to make an impact. I believe this world can be superficial, and I just want people to know just to be happy with their own skin. Look at the life I've been able to live, all the fun times. So I think just getting my story out there. I think I'm going to go ahead with this, like with the government, meetings fixing for a little while, because I get the boss is awesome. They looked after me. It's not something I could look at maybe in another 5 to 10. I'll do it the next 2 years because they put me back on. They've done everything right there. It's good money. So I'll do that. But it isn't a passion of mine, I've got to be honest. But just, they're good people who I work for. They looked after me last time I worked with them. So, but my passion is doing this. I got the second book that is in Coralie's hands as we speak, so she'll be doing all that online. Yeah, I feel I just want to make an impact in the world. I've never been in a relationship. Obviously, my childhood sweetheart, Nicole, but other than that, and I seem to make female friendships wherever I go. Like Marshall's just one example. I met Tonya in Spain. She's from Sydney. We caught up in Sydney a few times. So females love being in my company. So I could keep focusing on that.
So you're looking for love?
I don't know. I think we all want to find it. But then again, I got friends who have been through a divorce, who to get the wrong one. I don't know, because I've never known what it's like to be in a relationship. And then to look around and people seem to be jumping in and out all the time of relationships. And for some reason, I've never been able to take that step. But then I make friends with the females very easy, and I'll focus on that. And growing up, I think that's the norm. To meet someone, to have kids. That's what society is programmed. And we all. But I've come to believe everyone's journey is different. I appreciate the path you're on. And if someone had told me back in Harvey, growing up, that I'll do one trip, let alone see what I have, I would have taken it. I would have said, yeah, I'll take that life. So I think I'm living the life I want to live. But it's like anything. I have lonely times. I get the darkness, but just catch up with friends. And I believe it's how the life is the oyster. It's what they make of it. And kids, I'm 44, maybe has passed me by. I'm a good uncle to my two nieces and a nephew. Frog's got 2 young kids. I think they're 6 and 4. JC and Grayson, they love their uncle. And Alana, she's Kelvin's daughter. She's early 20s. So mum and dad have got the grandkids, so I don't feel pressure there. I think mum deep down would like to see it, but I think she's come to just be so happy with the life I've lived. And again, I think I made a choice early on in life. With the way I was born, it could go either way. I could draw into myself or just go the whole way. And I think after PJ and the other things, I think it's history in the making. I'm going the whole way with it, aren't I? I think I'm opening doors are opening. So I think that's what I want out of life. Just, I feel I'm doing the right thing. And yeah, love, just if it happens, it happens.
So you would love people to contact you for a sort of public speaking?
Yes, yeah, I think today could really open many doors.
I've got to ask, what's more difficult, right? And I want to ask you this as well, because you're similar situation. Well, you've both done TED Talks. So what's more difficult, talking about your life in a relaxed environment for 2 hours, like we've done today, or a 10-minute TED Talk?
TED Talk. Today was pretty crazy. I think the excitement of seeing Sean again was there. I've had that since I started this trip. But I think, as I mentioned, I'm a small town boy. That part will always be there. But what I've really done is really to see the world from coming from where I came from. I do believe my story is going to live on long after I'm gone. Sean's will as well. And it's it's sort of just the momentum there. But today I think once we got started, I found that for good, and having the book helped. And it's just like chatting and meeting new friends and chatting to an old friend. So definitely any public speaking is daunting. But I feel I'm going to be doing 20 more podcasts after this. So
I've got a few things to say on what you just said, Joel. So you said you think it's too late to have a child. Have you seen Jen's belly lately?
Yeah, they're all good because they're age Sean.
Yeah.
And she's inspired me in different ways as well. So, and I'll probably be asking you for advice
Am I inspiring you? Inspire you to be a dad? That's what I'm saying, Joel.
Yeah, you just never know. I never know. The right person, and I believe it will happen if it's meant to happen. And they are a good example, and I got good mates. Ash Davis, he's a good-looking bloke. He's good job. He's been single since his early 20s, and I think he just likes that lifestyle of having his space. He has a beer when he wants. So I got friends, so I'm not alone in that regard. My mate Afo, he's been in relationships that haven't worked, no kids. Adam, him and Nancy have been married now, and we had a good chat when we had lunch. Me and Adam always have good heart-to-hearts, and he's just not really interested. Him and Nancy seem like so. But again, I'll hear how who's go on this next journey. But I won't say no.
You mentioned the book, The Mafia Philosopher, Two Tonys. As it gets towards the end of that, and he's dying of cancer, he philosophizes on life and death very intensely.
Yes.
Do you philosophize on life and death, Joel?
I'd like to be a philosopher, and I think it's coming out now. I think I do. Maybe what I've been through. I love quotes, as you'll know in the book. People say I seem to have a bit of wisdom. I think have I gained that by what I've been through or overcome. And also just one of the boys, a party animal, a lad. So, if I can, I think keep putting myself out there, keep meeting people like yourself, Sean.
Are you spiritual?
I believe there's something out there. Growing up, Nana's Christian, we went to church, and I've only me and Kelvin. I went away from it through my 20s, 30s, because I was too busy partying, travelling the world. I believe there's something out there. The great beyond is what I call it. I wrote it in the second book. There's more to it after we go. I don't know what it is, but I believe there's something.
Do you feel like you've ever experienced anything like that from PJ? Any signs or
yes,
watching above?
Well, on Facebook a while back, and I'm going to use it as a photo in this next book. I was sitting there at the harbour just having a bourbon. I normally stick to beer, but I know PJ's like a bourbon, so I thought I'll just have one for him. And I took a photo of the bridge. I wasn't in the photo, I just took a photo of the bridge, and then when I looked at the phone, there's this light just coming straight down from the sky. And I thought, that's more than a coincidence. If I can find that photo, I'll be able to send so
put it on the podcast.
Deep in my Facebook photo somewhere. But this light just coming right near the bourbon, and I thought.
So you just had a knowing it was him.
Yeah, he knows when I'm back in Sydney. So yeah, if I'll try and find that photo. But yeah, that was a good question, because I do feel that from the great beyond, as I like to call it, there was a sign.
Definitely. And you said you were excited to meet Sean, which I find really bizarre.
I think.
Did he live up to his expectations?
Yeah, no, honestly, just to feel surreal to think 9 years ago I was in a Vegas hotel and a bit hangover, actually first read the book. And who would have thought we'll not only meet, but start a friendship. But again, I seem to do it with a lot of people. And and even with the COVID hidden, I thought we may not travel again. And so, I'm just sitting here today doing a podcast. And again, people like my friend Jackson, who loves your work, Sean. I think everyone in Harvey will probably watch this. So he's lived up to, and I hope one day people could say that about me, that want to meet me. And I think just meeting the right people help. And I feel that, again, put yourself out there. And when I was young, to stare and could have put me further into myself. And this comes back to the alcohol as well. It helped me come out of myself. I was not quiet. I was a bit quiet, but I was always popular. I had my group of friends. But then when I was drinking, it would just bring me out. I'll meet everyone at the party. And I just became this lovable, guy that the life of the party.
One of the last stories in your book, Joel, is the experience you have with a mole cookie. What happens there?
Oh, the mole cookie story there.
How is a mole cookie?
My friend,
you better explain what a mole cookie is.
My friend Alan Hayes, he just read my book, and it's funny because he sent me a message saying, just reading the book about someone I actually know, I could just fit you doing all these things. And she said the mole cookie story was pretty funny. Well, I was in Copenhagen, and I've always, with the weed, been a dabbler, never really booze is my thing. Sometimes I'll get paranoid when I used to get stoned in our younger years. But I remember I went to this festival. Chris,
I thought you were talking
it's
about
in
that
the
type
book.
of cookie.
It's a pretty well festival. It's like a Woodstock sort of in Copenhagen of all places.
Wow.
And again, a big thanks to Jackson Hassel because he was sort of following me on that whole journey, even though we're catching up. Then when he saw I was in Copenhagen, he sent me a message, you've got to check this festival out. So I thought, okay, I'll take Jackson's advice. And it sort of was off the beaten track a bit, out in a wooded area, just out of the city. And it's like a hippie sort of place with all stalls, a lot of weed smoking going on, there's a band playing. And I seen there was like no cookies. And I don't know, it's that dice, roll the dice. I always think, to experience life, you've got to go the whole way. You've got to really, and if it's a good experience or bad, I'm going to get one. So I got the mole cookie and I gobbled it up. And straight away the alarm bells started going off because I thought, I had one with friends back home in Harvey years ago, and I got that body stoned that I was out the front lawn in the fetal position for ages. But I had my friends there that could keep them calm, and and I was on the other side of the world. I've just swallowed a whole cookie. If that happens again, I'm in danger.
It worked then.
I thought, okay, I could try and ride this out or get a taxi quick smart back to my hotel. What one should I do? I thought, I'm out of here. I could already feel that I was starting to feel a bit lightheaded. And it was starting to really kick in. I got to an intersection and lucky there was a taxi coming. Taxi, and it really kicked in by the time I got in the taxi. The guy was just waffling on and I just couldn't understand the word he was saying, and I think he was just giving me the history of Copenhagen, but I was like, my head is just waffling on, and apparently because there's two wake up Copenhagens, and Sean, there's that other story where I ended up back at the wrong hotel, but I'll stick with the mole cookie story for now, and I was remember, please take me back to the right hotel this time. Thankfully he did. I paid, straight up to my room. As soon as I got into my room, I laid on the bed in the fetal position. I didn't move till about 10 o'clock the next morning.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And then I got up, I was lightheaded, and I cursed myself for being a bit foolish. That was a very close call, that one. Imagine if I hadn't got back to my hotel. But another story that came out of my travels, and I think Jackson, he had a good laugh at that one. And I actually told you all about that place.
What was the other story you just mentioned?
That was 2 days earlier. So Copenhagen, sort of, I could write a whole book about Copenhagen. And I remember when I got there, because I knew the binge drink, and I was getting on top of it, but it was still a bit, and I was like, okay, I've got to analyse the hotel in case I've had too many. I've got to find my way back. And I had a big sign at the top, wake up Copenhagen. I thought, duty, at least I'm going to find my way back, even if I'm in a blackout. And so the first night, or first day I went out, I met a couple from Finland. Funnily enough, I'm still in touch with them, and we had a big night. One thing led to another. I ended up waking up. I was on the couch. I was in a lobby, and well, no, that's it. I went upstairs and tried my room key. It wouldn't work. I was like, "This is my room." So I was pretty drunk by then. So I just went down into the lobby and fell asleep on the couch. And then I finally said, I've got to at least try to find out why my room key won't work. So I showed the guy at the counter, said, my room key doesn't work. He had a look and goes, they're in the wrong. There's two wake up Copenhagens. There's always the other side of town. I thought, no. And then I started walking, then I had lost my wallet. I was no, tomorrow's already looking like being a long day. I went back and lucky I'd left my wallet down beside the couch where I'd passed out. So, so that's the story there. I got back to the right hotel and had a good sleep. So, and there's another story before we finish up. It's in the book, which probably inspired the book. My mate John O'Maravito, that's when he said, you've got to write a book one day, Joel. It was 09. And for the people that don't know, when I do sleep, my glass eye stays open. And we ended up in Florence. It was the Kentucky Tour 09, that's the one that Marshall was on. And we had a good dinner, then we went nightclubbing. One thing led to another, and blackout came on, and woke up in the morning, and John, hey, I can't remember much of the night, and the tour guide didn't seem too pleased to see me. And Joey, I'm good mates with Joey now, and we're mates on the trip. He didn't seem too pleased, and I was, oh shit, I wonder if I did say. And then, so we went up to the Alps, did all that. I was still hangover as anything. Then I was in with Jono afterwards, and I finally got the coach. What happened last night, Jono? Because he was drunk as well, but I think he didn't go to the levels that I went to. And we got back, threw the key, the wallet and phone on the couch. Good night. Passed out on the couch in the lobby, and then obviously the lady behind the counter looked up at some point there. I was not moving. My glass eye was open, just staring straight at her. She thought I was dead. She thought I was dead, so she had to wake Joey up from his slumber. And I think I got one of the tour people here, and I think he's dead. And Joey came down, and no, he's got a glass eye. And, 'cause I wasn't even moving, so he had to shake me to wake me up. And I could understand why he was not too happy, because I think as part of his job description is not to let anyone die on his tour. So that's a story. And me and Jono were talking about it in Scotland 2 days later, because it doesn't happen often, a story like that. And Jono was, you've got to write this down. You've got to get this in a book one day. And so that was the story. I feel that. And after that trip, I got home, got the pen out. That's where the book started. So Jono, I'll give him credit there, because it is a funny story that not like the clerks, but he's still a bit, she would have been a bit surprised.
How many people have you freaked out by doing that?
I remember when I stayed at my friend Kenny Spencer's place a lot as a kid. I remember his uncle was over one time, and he freaked out because I was asleep on the couch, and my eye was open. So that was the first time that then Kenny was having a laugh about that the next day. And I snored pretty loud too, and the uncle was like, it's pretty windy outside, and Kenny was like, no, I think that's Joel, he just So so that's pretty unnerving for people who don't know, but the eye apparently stays open when I sleep. So I think when I do get a partner, I'll have to let her know that.
You better tell her.
So I've got a question for Jen and Shah. I've known Joel for a while, and he's so inspiring, like what he's been through in his life and how people complain about little things. I'm just wondering, you guys meeting him for the first time, what's your impressions? I
think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there, because people do moan about, especially, I think it's, and I'm speaking for myself, maybe you agree, Shah, as women, we really do give so much of our appearances, and give each other such a hard time, give ourselves a hard time about it, and become so self-obsessed even.
Yes, yeah.
And it does put it in perspective of, like, we shouldn't take all that in as much. Yes. And I guess... What would you agree on that?
100%. And it sounds, you've looked outside the ego, haven't you?
Yes.
And you've looked at things from more of an expansive mindset because of what's, the journey that you've had and the experience that you've had. And I remember one of the first things that you said when we started the interview was about people choosing to be a victim.
Yes.
And you deciding that you didn't want to choose to have that victim position.
I think with the parents who they are, I'll give them a lot of credit.
And that was another thing that was noticed as well, is how many times you've given credit to your support network and your family and your people, rather than shining the light on your bravery, your strength, your courage. You've given so much credit to everybody else, and yet I'm just astounded at your, that's your core essence. No matter who we've got around us, no matter how much support they're giving us, it's up to us to take action.
Yes.
We can only do that ourselves. So for you to have, flipped that switch with such almighty power is,
unbelievable.
Jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
No,
it's a privilege.
You need to give yourself more.
I think, like I said this morning, and there's both, it's probably that small town thing that's never left me. I'm my harshest critic. Is my story making an impact? Can I do more? I got that overthinking. We all do it, but they're pretty right. I've got to pat myself on the back probably a bit more, and I seem to dwell on my shortcomings probably more, which is probably not a bad thing. Like I've only really stuffed up that one time with Marshall, but it seems I give that a lot of energy because maybe that big-hearted, because I've obviously upset someone. So they're right. I should appreciate the highs more and what I've achieved. And again, I think just said on Facebook and so many Harvey people just following my journey because I'm one of them.
And you said you're on like a soul searching journey now. And so with your speaking and your books and more and more people, you know, being exposed to more and more people, expand on what the main message is that you want them to take, that you want them to extract and apply to their own lives?
I think about overcoming adversity. People are self-conscious with their looks, especially teenagers, and I find with the social media world, we're lucky we didn't grow up with that. A lot of it is competitiveness and with the filters. And I think the world, like there's so many of these influencers there and there's people like with my story that need to be heard. And some of these influencers, there's probably reasons why they are where they are, but they haven't really seemed to have overcome much. I think the world needs to hear more stories like mine because it's real. And again, I think it's just I've grown comfortable in my own skin. And also I touch on a lot of people can't be alone. I think they struggle with being alone. I've been alone because I've been in a relationship, but not really alone because I've got friends everywhere. But I've always gone to sleep alone every night, and I'm alone with my thoughts then. And I travel a lot, and I struggled with that a bit when I was working with the government. I was moving around a lot with my job. I still go back to an empty hotel, don't I, no matter what I've done that day. So I struggle with that, but I come to find that creates a bit of power too. If you can overcome that, and I can go anywhere now on my own, I think there's a bit of power in that. I've forged the path I have. If I was in a relationship, maybe I could have went a different path, but I think just being alone and never being in a relationship and keeping that positive outlook, I want people to be inspired by that too, because some people struggle with being alone, and I think it's just anyone could live the life they want, and a lot of people do moan, and I do it as well. So, the day-to-day stuff gets to me as well, but there's a bigger picture out there, and I've always looked at the bigger picture. And again, I met a girl, Tonya. She's a good friend of mine now in Spain, and she's a very pretty girl, and we caught up in Sydney, and she came to meet me at where I was staying, and I was out there having a drink waiting for her, and we went out for dinner, and I could see she's a very, very nice looking girl, and she's come to meet up with me, and I could see people looking. I could just picture them thinking that doesn't happen, just the stigma that society has. Like she could go pick up any man, and it was me because she's that kind of person that she knew what was in my heart, and we went out for dinner, and we're only friends, and I'd take some lessons with Marcel. I'll just focus on the friendship with that one. And Emily, I met her in Stratford, so I got a lot of female friendships, and again, it's just that stigma, like when a nice looking girl comes and it's she comes and meets and we go walking off together. It does make me feel good because I'm proven that, to put yourself out there, things do happen.
And the world definitely needs more influencers like you.
Well, that's what Sean will probably help me a bit here. I'm getting it out there, but I do have all the tools to. I'm just learning Instagram now. I don't know much about any of the others, but any platform could really help because I feel that Facebook's my biggest one that a lot of people follow. But then Instagram, I think I know Zeus just started following me on.
I did. I've been stalking around London.
I'm only new to that, but again, I feel I need to. I can influence and make a big difference in the world, and again, it goes back to we're not here forever. And Tony's was very philosophical at the end, and he, like me with that drink driving, he owned his choices in life. And Sean, and I could see now just by reading about him, and it was a destiny that me and you met. You know, like, you know, I would have liked to have met Wildman as well, but just met some lovely people today. So again, I'm going to go back to my hotel alone again, but in a very happy frame of mind because, to take the positives, what happened that day with it, don't you? And I feel today is a big positive.
So before we finish the podcast, you said you love quotes. What quote would you leave with us today?
I always like the Mark Twain one. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do rather than the things you did. And that's sort of getting out of life. And again, with PJ passing.
Do you know that one well?
I like it.
I pictured myself in my early 20s. If I was sitting there at the Harvey pub when I was 65, having never seen the world, I regret that. So I've always had that intuition of hindsight. So I like that one. So just go for it. If it sounds scary and just go. And that first solo trip. So yeah, 20 years from now, I like Carpe Diem.
Carpe Diem.
Seize the day. So there's I think I've read a bit about Hemingway. He's always got quotes. So I do a lot of reading and I think it's just having the courage to leave the comfort zone. It's always daunting at first, but and I feel that's why my story is going to make a big impact because where I came from in a small town, not many people have gone and done what I have, and you can just see people getting behind my story, and there's always positives. Oh, that's another one. There's a positive. Look for a positive in every day, even if sometimes got to look a bit harder. So yeah, it's just that saying. And I've been negative before. We all have. When I messed up with Marcel, went to a dark place, but it's how to bounce back, isn't it? It's how the resilience must come with that. So yeah, I know Mum and Dad, Kelvin, Frog, all the friends. I think they'll be pretty proud, and I don't, but I've had a few people I went to school with, and a friend, her daughter took her life, and a few of the people I went to school with took their life, and I'll never judge anyone. Suicide, we all make choices, and I think Sean said something that stuck with me. It takes courage to end it, but takes even more courage to keep going, or something like that along the lines, like when you get to that point when you could go either way. So I got a lot out of just reading the book, mate, and that helped me as well.
Joel, it's mutual. You're the most inspirational person I've ever met, honestly.
Yes.
You are. I think the viewers watching this, if anyone deserves the love, Joel deserves the love. Please support his work. If you're a podcaster out there and you want to interview him and spread the word, all the links will be in the description box. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram now. You've got your book out, One Ear, One Eye, No Worries.
No worries.
And it's like what you've heard today, but in way more detail. And honestly, every time I'm around you, Joel, it puts the silly little things I worry about I'm thinking, what are you doing to yourself?
Petty.
Right.
You're a powerful presence. Your speaking ability has just increased. You're going from strength to strength. And I love you, brother, and I'm so grateful for you coming out here
And if
today.
you wanted to date, reach out for dating, they can contact you.
Yeah. No,
You have been a great reminder about what life is truly supposed to be
some of the
about.
best memories of my life was that on the islands with Marcia. Obviously, with that female company, and probably catching up with Tonda in Sydney, Emily and Stratford. So I do enjoy that female company. So if anyone
reach out,
and again, like I said,
with a wardrobe like that,
I know that's shirt.
I thought I'll dress up for today. So it's a big thing being on Sean's podcast, but no, thanks for the kind words, mate, and you've helped me as much just by what you went through in Arizona. My brother, I could sort of, because he did time as well, and that's why your story really, and he's a counsellor now, so Kelvin, he'll be happy he's probably one of my biggest supporters, so he'll hopefully you may meet Kelvin one day, because he went down a similar path to do, so and I can't imagine, so I went, again, sort of put things in perspective, what you've been through. I may not have got through it. Like everyone's got their things, and it's just how to deal with things.
Well, Joel, we try and finish our podcast with a hug, so give us a hug, man.
Yes, come on in.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, absolutely brilliant, bro. Well done. Congratulations. Chet Sandhu's book is finally available worldwide on Amazon. He's one of our most viral podcast guests ever. The book is called Self-Made, Dues Paid, an Asian kid who became an international drug smuggling gangster. Do you want to read some of the back, Jen?
Yeah, go the blurb. In 1999, Chet Sandhu was arrested at gunpoint in Alicante Airport for smuggling the largest quantity of illicit pharmaceutical drugs in Spanish history. Interesting. Overnight, he went from living in the shadows of the Costa del Crime's underworld to being labelled a notorious supervillain in the international press. Incarcerated alongside murderers, rapists, and terrorists in a super maximum security wing. He had to navigate a world of murderous knife fights, prison breaks, drug taking, and high-stake power plays. Good bedtime read.
In Self-Made, Dues Paid, learn how a British-born Asian kid with disabilities, raised in a corner shop, emerged as a protector of his family from racist thieves and hooligans. Be prepared to be entertained, informed and offended by Chet's no-holes-barred account of raves, drugs, bodybuilding, entering the fashion industry. Did you know that he dated Kylie Minogue and Naomi Campbell?
Latest interview.
Working the doors and life in one of the world's deadliest places to be incarcerated. If you enjoyed Chet's podcast series with us, there's a lot more detail in the book. Check it out. Worldwide on Amazon, ebook, paperback, and audiobook.